You are about to hear something that could alter the course of your life and the world as we know it. This is not just a story, but an urgent message from the Virgin Mary, transmitted through the light of Mary. It contains prophecies for the nations and a warning. Only some will be saved, and the consequences for those who ignore it will be unavoidable. Imagine being entrusted with a divine secret that shapes the destiny of nations and realizing your crucial role in the outcome. This message is a direct call to awaken those who can still choose a path of light. Time is running out, and every moment matters. Ignoring this could mean overlooking a key piece of the spiritual puzzle that defines humanity's future. This revelation comes at a critical time, as if it were the final warning before an inevitable transformation. The light of Mary, a chosen messenger, shares words that demand attention. These are not ordinary prophecies. They carry a weight that transcends the natural and reaches the core of humanity. While the fate of the world isn't sealed, the time to act is limited. This compelling message marks the beginning of an exploration of what has been revealed, what nations may find salvation, and what awaits those who turn away from this divine warning. If you're here, it's no accident. There's something in this message that you need to hear, something that could shift your perspective on everything. Ignoring it would be like closing your eyes as the world around you collapses. The consequences are near, but so is the chance for redemption. Stay with me, because each detail in this message could be the key to understanding what's coming. Don't let distractions rob you of something that bears the destiny of entire nations. Your presence here is a sign you're being called. Are you ready to receive this divine message? If so, join me now, because what you're about to learn cannot wait. The decision is yours, to listen and act, or to turn away from one of the most profound warnings of our time. How are you feeling today? What's been keeping you up at night, or weighing on your heart? I want you to know something important. You don't have to bear it alone. I'm here for you, ready to listen to every word you wish to share, even those you can't quite put into words. Trust me to support you and help lighten the burdens that feel overwhelming. Don't keep it all to yourself. Let me help you find the peace you seek. If you'd like, share in the comments what you're facing. This space is where others can join you in seeking comfort and renewing faith. Remember, you are not and never will be alone. I am here with you, always. When we speak of the light of Mary, we are not just referring to an ordinary person, but someone chosen for a divine plan beyond human comprehension. There's something about her that transcends the visible. Her voice carries a power that cannot be ignored, and her revelations have a profound impact on those who hear them. But who is she, and why was she chosen to deliver such urgent and transformative messages? The light of Mary is more than a name, it is a symbol. Her journey began quietly, as if fate was preparing her for a great purpose. Over time, she became the channel through which the Virgin Mary communicates essential messages to humanity. What makes her unique is not just her devotion, but her ability to fully surrender to the divine will, even amidst the pressures of modern life. When the Virgin Mary appears to her, the atmosphere transforms. It's not an ordinary encounter, but a moment where heaven meets earth, filling the human heart with both awe and love. The clarity and urgency of the messages she receives leave no room for misinterpretation or superficial comfort. When the light of Mary speaks, her words serve as a direct call to awaken dormant hearts. This isn't about religion, but about a spiritual connection that transcends personal beliefs and touches the human soul at its purest level. The Virgin Mary chose the light of Mary for her extraordinary ability to listen and obey without hesitation, even when the messages she carries are profoundly heavy. Imagine bearing the responsibility of being a bridge between the divine and the world, knowing that the words you transmit could shape the destiny of nations, yet might be rejected by those who need them most. This is the reality the light of Mary lives daily. Each revelation she shares acts as a beacon in a world submerged in darkness. Her mission is to deliver the divine message with clarity, no matter how difficult the journey may be. She is not here to convince or force belief, but to convey the truth with the love and purity entrusted to her. This brings us to a crucial question: why are these messages arriving now? The light of Mary emphasizes that this moment is critical. We are in a time of choices, decisions that are happening here and now, shaping our everyday lives. Each person has a role, and every nation bears responsibility. Yet, the light of Mary is not the protagonist of this story. She is merely the messenger, the conduit for something far greater. Without her, these words could be lost, leaving the world to continue its blind path toward an uncertain future. Her role is indispensable, ensuring that these divine messages reach humanity. The urgency of her mission is palpable. What is to come is not merely a warning, but a profound call for transformation. It is up to each of us to decide whether we will heed this call or turn away from a message that could define humanity's future. When the Virgin Mary speaks, her words are not suggestions. They are urgent cries filled with love and a plea to awaken. Her presence is no coincidence, nor is it a moment for apathy. She speaks to the heart, as a mother would to her children on the brink of danger, extending her hands to save them. Her tone is firm, but filled with the compassion that only unconditional love can provide. The Virgin Mary's message, delivered through the light of Mary, is clear. The choices we make today will shape our tomorrow. Time is running out. She implores us to pause, reflect, and reevaluate our paths, not to condemn, but to guide us toward transformation. Her purpose is not to instill fear, but to inspire change, igniting a flame of hope in the darkest times. Her call is not just for individuals, but for nations, each with a unique and critical role in this divine plan. It is not about politics or borders, but about the collective response to love and truth. Some nations, she reveals, have the potential to shine as beacons in a world overshadowed by darkness. Yet, this opportunity comes with immense responsibility. It requires more than a desire for salvation, it demands transformation. Her words provoke deep reflection, intertwining pain with hope. They acknowledge the world's suffering while pointing to the possibility of a new beginning. This call is a rallying cry, not just for individuals, but for entire communities to seek light amid the darkness. Her message carries an urgency that cannot be ignored. It is an invitation and a warning, urging action and choices that honor life, faith, and a connection to the divine. Yet, the Virgin Mary does not leave us with warnings alone. She offers guidance and signs to help us find our way. Each word is a lifeline for those who feel lost, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is a way forward. This path requires effort, surrender, and faith. The question remains, are we listening? Because the choice to hear is ours, and so is the choice to act. The future is not inevitable, it is the outcome of the decisions we make now. The Virgin Mary remains with us, guiding and calling, awaiting our response. But time is fleeting, and each moment lost is an opportunity missed to answer this divine call. Among her most striking revelations is the declaration that not all nations will be saved. This is not favoritism, but a reflection of the light and faith that endure amidst chaos and corruption. These chosen nations are not marked by their wealth, power, or progress, but by their openness to the divine and their ability to uphold spiritual values that much of the world has abandoned. They are like lighthouses in a storm, places where love, compassion, and truth still have room to thrive. The message of the Virgin leaves no doubt. These nations were called because they still have the strength to lead humanity into a path of transformation. But this choice is not a prize, it is a responsibility. The weight of this election is immense because there must be an example in a time of darkness. Each action of these nations will be observed, each decision will have an impact on the future, not only of their people, but of all of humanity. At the same time, there is a sense of urgency in the message. Even the chosen nations are not immune to the consequences of what is to come. They too face immense challenges, and their salvation will depend on the strength of their choices. They need to remain firm, united, and faithful to the principles that made them worthy of this divine election. There is no room for complacency or spiritual negligence. The Virgin Mary does not reveal the names of these nations explicitly, perhaps because the recognition of these characteristics is in our hands. Each nation, each people, each soul must look at themselves and ask, are we among the chosen ones? Are we living in a way to deserve this salvation, or have we strayed from what is essential? This silence about the names of the chosen nations is also an opportunity for reflection. Perhaps it is not too late for other nations to awaken, so that those who have strayed can return to the right path. Because, as the Virgin Mary made clear, divine mercy is infinite, but it depends on us to accept it and act. There is something deeply moving and challenging in this part of the message. It places a mirror over each nation, forcing us to face our truth, and at the same time gives us a spark of hope. Even in the midst of chaos, there are places where the light still shines, and that light can grow, can spread, if we find the courage to listen and act. The choice of nations is a reminder that as long as there is faith, as long as there are those who seek the truth, there will always be a chance. But time is running out, and decisions need to be made now. There is no more room for doubts or hesitations. Salvation never comes without a cost. This is the profound truth that the Virgin Mary revealed in her messages. For the chosen nations, the path of redemption will not be easy. There will be sacrifices, and they will not be small. This call to surrender is not imposed but appears as an inevitable necessity. Because for something new to flourish, something old must die. For the light to prevail, it is necessary to face the darkness head-on. The sacrifice required goes beyond what is physical. It is a spiritual process, a purification that requires courage, humility, and unshakable faith. These nations, although chosen, are not immune to difficulties. They will face intense challenges, trials that will test their leaders, their people, and their most fundamental beliefs. It will not be a smooth journey, but it will be a process that will take them to a higher state of connection with the divine. The Virgin Mary made it clear that this sacrifice is part of the greater plan. It is not punitive, but necessary. Imagine a raw gold that needs to be refined by fire to reach its true purity. This is what these nations will face. The pain, the effort, and the struggle will not be in vain. Every tear, each effort will be an offering that will open the way to grace and salvation. But what does this sacrifice mean in practice? It is a call to renounce everything that separates us from the divine. This can mean abandoning collective vices such as greed, corruption, and indifference to the suffering of others. It can mean prioritizing unity, love for others, and the search for a higher morality, even if this goes against the immediate interests and comforts of the modern world. Sacrifice will also require a deep spiritual awakening. It is not enough to change external behaviors. It is necessary to transform the hearts of the chosen nations. They will have to align themselves not only in actions, but in intention and faith. A collective commitment will be necessary, where each individual understands their role in the greater plan. And this is not easy. Sacrifice will often be accompanied by doubts, pain, and the feeling of being at the limit. There will be moments in which it will seem that the strength is running out, that the burden is too heavy. But it is in these moments that the Virgin Mary promises to be closer, offering consolation, and renewing the strength of those who do not give up. There is a deep mystery in sacrifice. It is not just suffering, but also an opportunity to find something greater than ourselves. By giving up what binds us to what is fleeting, we connect to the eternal. It is this connection that will allow these nations to not only survive, but flourish, becoming true examples of faith and resilience for the rest of the world. The message is clear: sacrifice is necessary, but it is not something that the chosen nations will face alone. The divine will be present at each stage, guiding, strengthening, and offering hope. It is a journey that demands everything, but in return offers everything that is truly important: peace, redemption, and the grace of being in communion with the divine plan. The words of the Virgin Mary, transmitted by the light of Mary, came with an intensity that cannot be ignored. The consequences are not just possibilities, they are spiritual certainties that depend on the choices we make now. These consequences are not arbitrary punishments, but inevitable results of a world that has moved away from its essence, its connection with the divine. For the nations that choose to ignore the call, the future will not be merciful. What has been announced is that pain will come, but not as punishment. It will be the reflection of a humanity that insists on walking against the truth, against love, against that which unites us to the sacred. The earth will shake, the skies will darken, and the structures that support the modern world may collapse. These consequences are not only physical, although natural disasters and catastrophic events have been mentioned. They are spiritual, deep, and will reach the core of what makes us human. The spiritual emptiness that consumes so many people today could deepen even further, leading to an inner darkness that will be difficult to overcome. The Virgin Mary spoke firmly, "What is to come will be a purification." This word, purification, echoes as a reminder that even in the midst of pain, there is an opportunity. Purification is not the end, but a process of cleansing and renewal. However, for many nations, this process will be marked by suffering because pride, indifference, and lack of faith have created barriers that will need to be broken by force. The consequences will also reach those who remain passive. There will be no neutrality at this critical moment. Each person, each leader, each community will be called to choose a side, align with the divine plan, or remain trapped by the illusions of the world. Those who refuse to act, to transform, will feel the weight of this inertia. On the other hand, there are also consequences for those who hear the call. These nations and individuals will not be exempt from challenges, but they will experience something profound, the strength that comes from faith, the light that shines even in the darkest nights. For them, the consequences will be growth, overcoming, renewal. It is as if suffering were a portal to a new era, where the true connection with the divine will be restored. One of the most striking aspects of this message is the reminder that the consequences are not just for current generations. What we do today will shape the world that we will leave for our children and grandchildren. Every choice, every action, every omission is a seed that will germinate in the future. The Virgin Mary makes it clear that this is a unique opportunity to plant seeds of light, but that if we neglect this call, we will reap storms. The most powerful aspect of the consequences announced is that even in the face of gravity, hope remains. The Virgin does not leave us in a state of despair, but offers us a path. She reminds us that no matter how deep the darkness, there will always be the possibility of redemption. But this redemption requires effort. It requires a radical change in how we live, think, and believe. The consequences are therefore not just a warning, they are an invitation to transformation. They challenge us to look inside and outside, reflect on the world we are creating, and decide if we are willing to change before it is too late. The words of the Virgin Mary, full of love and urgency, spread throughout the world like a wave. But as with all great messages, humanity's reaction is not uniform. While some hearts open, others close. It is in the impact of these reactions that the real test begins. Among those who hear the message, those who surrender immediately recognize the truth in the words, feel the weight of the call, and begin to seek transformation in their lives. These are the ones who respond with humility to prayers and concrete actions. They do not wait for miracles. They become instruments of change themselves by spreading the message in their communities and living as examples of faith and courage. But unfortunately, not everyone reacts in this way. There are those who, even when faced with the clarity of the message, choose the path of skepticism and denial or manipulation. For them, the warnings seem too uncomfortable to be accepted. It is easier to close their eyes and remain attached to the illusions of the world than to face the truth that requires sacrifice and change. There are still those who react with fear. They recognize the weight of the words, but do not know how to deal with the call for transformation. Instead of seeking support or answers, they are paralyzed by panic, preferring to hide rather than face challenges head-on. This group is vulnerable, as it can be easily influenced by those who spread doubt and misinformation. Among nations, the reaction is no less polarized. Some see in the message an opportunity to reevaluate their priorities. These nations begin to value unity, spirituality, and compassion. Their leaders seek ways to guide their people towards a path of renewal, even if this means facing internal resistance. These nations show that even in the midst of chaos, it is possible to choose the light. But others react with disdain. These nations, trapped in pride and greed, ignore the call. They continue on their paths of exploitation, destruction, and indifference. Towards them, the warnings seem distant, like something that will never reach them. However, the consequences announce St. Clare's. Pride will be your ruin, and resistance to the call will be the cause of your downfall. And in the midst of this, there is the great danger of indifference. Perhaps this is the most devastating reaction of all. When the world hears such an urgent message and chooses to continue, as if nothing had changed, the spiritual impact is immense. Indifference is not just an act of omission. It is an active choice to ignore the divine and embrace the void. The reaction of the world is therefore a reflection of the spiritual condition of its people. For those who choose to listen, there is a way of hope. For those who reject or remain indifferent, the future is uncertain but dark. However, the Virgin Mary's message makes one thing clear: it is never too late to change. Even the most resistant nations can find redemption. If they have the courage to abandon pride and embrace faith, this is the beauty and complexity of the human reaction. Each person, each nation, carries within them the power to change the course of events. The question is, are we willing to act? Are we ready to respond to the call before it is too late? Amidst the great warnings and destinies of nations, there is an essential point that the message of the Virgin Mary emphasizes: the role of each individual. However much the prophecies are addressed to the nations as a whole, each soul counts. Each personal choice resonates, not only in your life, but as an echo that reaches your community and ultimately the world. This is the crucial point: your decision matters. No matter if you feel small or insignificant in the face of the vastness of the planet, the divine message is clear. It is in individual hearts that the greatest transformations begin. An awakened soul can illuminate others around it like a flame that spreads, creating a movement that transforms the course of events seemingly inevitable. The Virgin Mary asks something direct, but deeply challenging, that each of us look within ourselves. What truths are we ignoring? What behaviors keep us from the divine? It is easy to point the finger at leaders, power structures, or nations as a whole, but the true calling is for each individual to take responsibility for their own spiritual journey. This does not mean living in a perfect or immaculate way. It means making conscious choices aligned with truth and love. It is an invitation to abandon apathy and complacency, to face with courage the internal challenges that we often prefer to avoid. Because it is by facing these challenges that we become instruments of something greater. The role of each individual goes beyond their own salvation. It is a collective responsibility, a commitment to support and inspire others. The message is clear: we are not called to face this journey alone. Shared faith, community, prayers, and mutual support create a network of light that can overcome any darkness. And yet, there is a challenge. We can often feel overwhelmed, asking, "What can I do?" being just one among many. The answer lies in small actions: a gesture of kindness, a word of comfort, a courageous decision to say no to injustice. Each of these choices has an impact greater than we can imagine. This is how the world changes from the inside out, one heart at a time. The individual role also includes prayer, not as an empty ritual, but as a living connection with the divine. Prayer, according to the Virgin Mary, is one of the most powerful ways to find guidance, strength, and clarity in difficult times. When you pray, you are not just asking for help, you are offering your soul as a channel for divine light to reach those around you. But above everything, the individual call is to faith, a faith that is not blind, but that trusts in the greater purpose even when the paths seem uncertain. This faith drives us to act even when difficulties seem insurmountable. And this faith, when shared, multiplies, creating an impact that transcends the barriers of time and space. Finally, the message of the Virgin Mary makes it clear that each person has a unique and irreplaceable role. You were placed here at this moment in history with a purpose. Your life, your choices, have an impact that you may not fully understand now, but it echoes in the divine plan. And so, the question that remains is, what will you do with this call? Are you willing to listen, to change, and to act? Because the future of the world begins with each one of us. Even in the face of the gravity of the Virgin Mary's words, there is something that shines with strength and hope in her messages. This is not a call to despair nor an announcement of irrevocable condemnation. On the contrary, every word, every warning, is impregnated with a love so deep and unconditional that only a divine mother could offer. It is a warning, yes, but full of possibilities for those who have the courage to listen and act. The Virgin Mary does not abandon us in the midst of the storm. In her messages, there is always a reminder that no matter how dark things seem, the light never stops shining. That light is not far away. It lives in each one of us, and in our ability to change the course of events. The future is not sealed. This is the essence of the hope she brings. There is still time, but it is short. Her words are like a lighthouse in the midst of chaos, directing us towards a path of redemption. She speaks of repentance, conversion, and transformation not as an imposition, but as a choice that we can make at any time. What separates us from salvation is not the gravity of our mistakes, but the refusal to recognize them and seek reconciliation. The hope that the Virgin offers us is the certainty that there is always an open door for those who wish to return to the divine. This hope, however, is not passive. It's not about waiting for something to change on its own, but about acting with faith and determination. It's a hope that requires effort, courage, and confidence. It challenges us to abandon fear and apathy and embrace transformation, even if it means leaving our comfort zone. There is also a powerful reminder in the Virgin Mary's message: no one is alone, even in times of greatest difficulty. She is there, interceding for us, guiding with her words, and strengthening us on our journey. This presence is an inexhaustible source of comfort and courage, especially for those who feel lost or overwhelmed. Furthermore, the Virgin Mary reminds us that hope is contagious. When we choose to believe and act with faith, we inspire others to do the same. This is the power of a community united by the light. Together, we can face any challenge, overcome any obstacle, and build a future that reflects the values of love, compassion, and truth. But this hope is not just for those who are already on the path of faith. It extends to everyone, even those who have moved away or never believed. The Virgin Mary speaks to all hearts, regardless of their beliefs or circumstances. She calls us to realize that no matter how far away we may be, there is always a way back. And this is where the beauty of her message lies. The future is not written in stone. It can be rewritten, transformed, guided by our choices. This is the hope she offers us, the chance to shape a different destiny, more aligned with divine plans. The question is, are we ready to embrace this hope? Are we willing to do what is necessary to turn the warning into an opportunity for renewal? Time is short, but the light still shines, and this light calls us to move forward, to believe, to act. Now, we have reached the most crucial moment of our journey, the point where the choice needs to be made. The message of the Virgin Mary, brought by the light of Mary, is not just a story to be heard, but an urgent invitation to act. Every word you have heard so far was intended to touch your heart, provoke deep reflections, and awaken in you the responsibility you carry as an individual, as part of a nation, and as part of humanity. The future is in your hands. This is the truth that echoes in all revelations. The decisions we make today shape the world we will see tomorrow. No matter how distant the warnings seem, they are real, and the consequences that accompany our choices are inevitable. No matter how dark the prophecies are, we must never forget that there is hope. There is always a way back to the light if we are willing to follow it. The Virgin Mary asks us for faith, courage, and action. This does not mean waiting for miracles while we remain inert. It means living in such a way that every gesture, every choice reflects our commitment to truth and love. It means abandoning pride and indifference and making space for compassion and unity. In this moment, the question that needs to be asked is simple but powerful: what will you do from now on? This call is not for the distant future, it is for this moment. It is for you to reevaluate your priorities, embrace prayer as a living connection with the divine, and become a flame of light amidst the darkness of the world. You are not alone. The Virgin Mary has promised to be by your side, offering guidance and strength. And more than that, there is a community of souls around the world who share this same calling, who are uniting in prayer and action to create real change. You are part of this community, and your participation matters. Time is ticking, but divine mercy is infinite. There is still room for redemption, for transformation, to choose love over hate, the light over darkness. But this choice needs to be made now. Every second counts, every decision matters. Before closing, I leave you with one last reflection. If this is the last opportunity to hear the divine call, what will you do with this chance? To ignore or embrace? The destiny of the world may seem too big to be influenced by a single individual. But remember, each global transformation begins with a personal transformation. Now, I invite you to act. Start today. Pray, reflect, seek the truth, share this message, be a light. What you do now is crucial for the future. And remember, no matter how difficult the path seems, you are never alone. The Virgin Mary is with you, and she will never fail to guide you, even in the darkest moments.